Bartenders of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing that you have ever witnessed at your job?
Butt-ass naked kid maybe 5 to 6 years old came in. Reactions ranged from WTF to laughter to attempts to help. Kid went straight to this lady, an every night regular, who turned out to be his mom. Apparently he hid in her car and she was too zonked on various substances to notice. Kid was naked because he had literally nothing to wear, I later learned, and their duplex apartment a few blocks away was a vermin-infested hellhole. Mom was a serious addict. Her kid following her to the bar was the impetus that led to him being taken away and her getting sent to rehab. I learned all this after the fact. But the kid walking naked into the bar was definitely among the most unexpected things I've ever seen.
I once witnessed a woman openly fondling herself, dress hiked up, underwear pulled aside, in the middle of a not super busy bar. It was very obvious she wanted people to see. The weird part was, after a bar back yelled at her and told to stop or get out, a guy walked up to the bar back and said, "Don't talk to my wife like that, this really happened."
I was a bartender once about 20 years ago, just after college. Only did it for about 3 months, but I was pretty darn good at it. I guess I already had tons of experience playing bartender at college parties, so I was already ahead of the game. Craziest experience I ever had involved a couple who I would guess were in their 40s or early 50s. From the parts of their conversation with each other I could overhear, it was obvious they were sexually liberated, which was rare for the conservative southern town I worked in. I bartended at an upscale trendy place. We were open only Thursday to Sunday, so I usually just worked Thursday, Friday and Saturday night. Most of my pours were relatively easy for a novice bartender. Bourbon on the rocks, old fashions, wine by the glass, martini, etc. One night I had a couple come in and sit at the bar. They changed my life in ways few people ever have. When I asked them what I could get them, they talked about how they just wanted to relax, try new things and not have to make any decisions that night. So, they proposed that I just make them whatever drink I wanted to make them. They told me to make observations about their personalities and just choose whatever drinks I thought they'd like. I thought they were very cool and easygoing people, so I was game to give it a shot. I had been practicing making all sorts of craft cocktails in my spare time, some that were pretty non-traditional. They each had 4 rounds. Each round I made them something a little more unique and fun. I even still remember some of the drinks from that night and actually order them now for myself from time to time. They sat and talked to each other, and since I wasn't very busy that night, they'd strike up little conversations with me from time to time. Nothing too crazy, but at one point the guy said to me, "She thinks her boobs look awful in this dress, but I think they look great, don't you?" This was about the same time punked was a thing, so my first thought immediately went to the idea that someone was screwing with me. I think I responded with something like, "I think women are too hard on themselves." Before they left, the lady in the couple said, "Hey, we are having a little party at our house next week. If you aren't working, could we hire you to bartend for us for a few hours?" We went back and forth for a minute as I asked them questions about particulars, who would order the booze, etc. And in the end I felt like I could handle it. So, I told them I'd be happy to do it. Then the lady said one more thing, "And I want to make sure you're cool with the type of party it will be. It's a sexy party and the people who will be there aren't shy. You might see some crazy stuff." I laughed it off and told them I was laid back, so nothing to worry about. As I got off work that night, I was obviously trying to envision what she was talking about. I even had a few paranoid thoughts, worrying that I had just agreed to bartend for some sort of cult. But the couple seemed nice enough, so I figured what the heck, I'll just go make a memory and risk being ritually murdered. The night of the party I got there early to prepare. The lady answered the door in a robe, it looked like she was still getting ready, and hurriedly asked me to set everything up at the bar because she was running behind. I took care of it, and just sort of hung out until she finally came back in the room. She was wearing what I would describe as a very sexy dress. When I say sexy, it wasn't just for the cut and length, it was also because the top was sheer and you could see right through it. She was a very pretty lady, and I was a guy in my early 20s, so I certainly had no complaints about the view. As people started to arrive and mingle around, it was clear this was no regular party among friends. It started off innocently enough, with people arriving and mingling about chatting with each other. The only thing that was out of the ordinary was that some of the women there were dressed in things even more revealing than the lady I was bartending for, and some not dressed in much at all. It wasn't long before some of the couples were asking me, "So is this the first time you've ever been a bartender at a swingers party?" Blushing, I said that it was. I was also wondering what that meant, because I was too sheltered in those days to comprehend the definition of swinger at that point. But I was getting the general idea. To be honest, these were some of the nicest people I had ever met. Friendly, outgoing, talkative, but also intelligent, open and engaging. They were fun. I just remember thinking to myself that they seemed very confident and self-assured. They sort of looked like any other random group of people. Diverse, all shapes and sizes, all levels of attractiveness. There were also some gay couples and singles there as well. As the time progressed, things definitely got a little crazy. I saw women making out with other women, men making out with other men. Individual men and women making out with couples, people getting naked. Your imagination probably gets the idea. It was pretty wild. Anyhow, they were still going strong when my agreed to time was up. I cleaned up and headed out with a wide smile on my face. I'm sure some of you are asking, did any of them proposition you? It doesn't help the story much, but the truth is, no. It was almost as if they were following some sort of code. They knew I was hired to be there and wasn't part of the group, so they were just exceptionally friendly and respectful. And they tipped very well. So, you ask, what was so life-changing about that? That night quickly became one of my fondest memories. I felt like a curtain had been opened for me. I grew up in a ridiculously conservative, traditional, sexually repressed, religious culture. I had never seen anything like this party before. But more important than the sights and sounds of the party were my impressions of the people there. For a young conservative Republican traditionalist like I was at the time, this represented everything I had always been told was bad. My Southern Baptist youth group would have quickly said that all these people were headed straight to hell. They were, after all, living sinful, shameful lives according to everything I had ever learned. But I saw nothing bad in these people. They were delightful. More than that, they were happy and accepting. They were one of the most affirming groups of people I had ever met. They were the type of people I envied and frankly the type of people who were a joy to be around. They knew who they were, and at this party at least, they got to be themselves without worrying about a very small-minded, hateful and unaccepting world around them. That night was the beginning of my own journey of sexual liberation. I thought about what I saw there and went through a years-long process of breaking free of the chains of my upbringing. I committed to discovering my own sexual spectrum and opened my mind to people who differed from me. Through the years, I opened myself to all sorts of experiences I wouldn't have otherwise ever considered. And I married a woman who was extremely supportive of that and who also came from a similar background as mine. Together, we've explored our sexuality and our lives, and marriage are better for it today. We feel like whole people. I never ran into anyone from that night at any other point in my life. But if any of them are reading this today, I want to say thank you. Thank you for who you are and for living your truth unashamedly. Thank you for showing this young guy that sex and sexuality are good things to be explored and encouraged, not things to be ashamed of. In my adult life, I've become an advocate for the LGBTQIA community, a supporter of sex workers' rights and a believer in body positivity and sex positivity. If it hadn't been for the people at that party that night, I might have never been exposed to something that was incredibly mind-opening and life-changing. Little do they know, but they were the catalyst for opening me to a lot of things that are very meaningful in my life now. They introduced me to an experience that inspired me to think differently, and for that I'll always be in their debt. Edit. Thank you so much for the gold. This is my first ever gold on Reddit. I've lurked here for probably 10 years now, and I only created a profile and started posting very recently. I never imagined I'd get to make one of these. Thanks for the gold, edits, but it sure feels great. You've made my day. Edit 2. Now platinum. You guys are amazing. I would have never dreamed my little story would turn into this. Thanks to all of you for the awards. You really brought a brightness to my day.
Car plowed into the bar I was working in, coming all the way in, and flipping a pool table on its side. Pinned 3 off-duty Applebee's waitresses against the bar. No one was hurt and the woman who was driving tried to order a drink.
I once served Catman a Bloody Mary. Dude had body modifications that were hard not to stare at. He was very friendly. He ordered a blue rare steak and returned it for being overcooked. I told him we can't legally feed you anything more raw than a blue rare steak. He hissed and ordered another drink.
Used to have a regular who sold her time on Backpage. She loved our queso, so she always had the guys bring her there. What stuck out was that she always ordered Jägermeister and Diet Coke in the same glass. I once had to kick her out because she got so wasted she was giving a blowjob under one of our tables. When I could clearly see the dick in her mouth, she lies about what she's doing and says she is looking for something.
A pretty dodgy woman came into the pokies room in our venue, gambling, slot machine equivalent that we have in Australia, and demanded for us to find an outlet for her to plug in her charger for her phone, so we found her a machine near an outlet and left her to her devices. Later, one of our staff was waved down by another stressed patron who said that a woman was moaning in the pokies room, went in to find out she'd actually plugged in a vibrator and was going to town on herself in front of everyone.
A guy who pissed himself sitting on a bar stool and then wanted to fight me when I cut him off and wouldn't serve him a new drink.
A heavy-set Middle Eastern man was drinking heavy and got very drunk at my bar. When he went to the restroom, his prime rib dinner had arrived. I think he shot up some smack in the stall cause when he came back way drunker. He then cut a long big strip of prime rib, about the size of a thick hot dog, then while glaring at me, threw his head back and proceeded to swallow it whole like a baby bird would a worm from its mother. It of course got stuck in his throat, choking him, and he passed out and fell on the floor. We cleaned out his air passage and gave him CPR. 10 minutes passed and he was still unconscious when the paramedics arrived. He left with a heartbeat but died later that night in the hospital.
Gordon Ramsay walked in, ordered a 1/2-sized margarita, and told me it was perfect after he finished it. He was a beep gentleman and even bowed and said thank you on the way out. I later learned they were filming an episode of Kitchen Nightmares around the corner, and he knew the chef who owned the restaurant where I was bartending. He came in the next night too. I had a convo with Beep Gordon Ramsay 2 days in a row.
Honestly, fight between someone dressed as SpongeBob and someone as an UMPA Loompa. No one was seriously hurt.
Lots of funny things at New Year when everyone is in fancy dress, sad older guys who have drank so much they haven't noticed their wig has slipped. The weirdest is definitely having a mariachi band burst in through the door of the pub, play 2 songs and leave. Keep in mind this is the UK, it was a dark rainy midweek night. I don't know where they came from or where they went after, but while they played they had the attention of everyone in the pub.
This happened on my first Friday night. There was 2 French women mid to late 20s having a good night, very chatty to the staff even though it was busy, but that quite nice and refreshing for a busy night. This one large sweaty guy makes his way to the bar and orders a drink while standing between these 2 women. As he overhears their accent, he asks, "Are you 2 French?" The ladies reply politely and continue talking between them. This guy pulls down his pants all the way to his ankles and says, "In that case, welcome to Scotland, baby," while making solid eye contact with me looking for approval. At this point, one of the girls grabs the guy's dick and balls and starts pulling him out of the pub like he's a disobedient dog, and the pure look of regret and embarrassment on the guy's face was priceless. She was really pulling with all her force and the guy was just trying to stay in one piece. The other girl finished her drinks, tipped us all very well, thanked us for a great night and swiftly left. As she opened the door I heard a faint yell of, "But it was funny, right?"
One lady, older, mid-50s, walked up to 2 younger guys, barely 21, and said, "I got big hands and a tight pussy." I had to tell her to leave them alone. She was very drunk there regularly.
A lady came in and very casually asked for a pack of Camel Crush and a glass of milk. I asked her if she wanted ice in it as it was a hot Texas summer day. She said no, then went out to the patio to smoke her cigs and drink her milk.
Ma'am, it is your wedding and you do not have shoes on. I'm going to have to ask you to step away from the broken beat class you're trying to pick up from your groomsmen being sloppy.
I had a guy soak an arancini ball in his beer before eating it.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.